Oh, good morning, everyone. I can
Welcome,
see,
everyone.
yes, I can see a few of us have joined. I might as well just say thank you for joining today. And very soon, and David will introduce Daryl. David's an interesting character, David Aldred. He's got his head in the clouds, which is an interesting thing.
I
Quite fitting for quite fitting for this. And our
thought that was a
in-house.
bit harsh, and then I saw look properly at
I
the
did think
picture.
that was a bit harsh initially there at
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So, David, of course, is business development manager at Ingram Micro, our preferred Fortinet supplier. Is a very important
Fortinet.
thing to say. And Daryl is our in-house Fortinet expert, who's going to tell us a few things, a few cool things, which I'm quite excited about. Oh, I see we've got some more people tuning in, which is great. Anyone who is unaware, we've got with the acquire sign behind here, we've got the great Danica, our marketing manager, and myself with a background from, anyone can guess. You get a prize if you guess where the background comes from. It's a place I recently visited. There you go. And I'm Simon from Acquire, so anyone who doesn't know that. Um, Really cool product, Fortinet. And interestingly enough, we have our own internal IT guru with us today. That's Anthony Ranger. And Anthony is very happy to be a Fortinet user. So Acquire is protected by Fortinet. It's always a good pitch, I think.
oh yeah.
Which is awesome. So I think we have a few of us here. So Danica, shall I pass on to David now?
Yes, I think so. We might have some. Oh, there's just a few more people joining, but I think we kick off. We have it recorded. If anybody's missed out on anything, we can distribute that afterwards. And just a note, we have a chat, and there's Q&A. So pop any questions into the Q&A, and we can go through those at the end. Or feel free to come off mute as well along the way. It's feel free to be. It's interactive today.
Okay. I'll take that as my cue to be interactive then. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Simon. Yes, as he said, I am the BDM for Fortinet at Ingram Micro. I've been doing this now for about 6 years. And during that time, I've watched Fortinet grow from being quite a small presence in New Zealand to a firm that now has about, give or take, 50% market share in firewalls within this country. So it's now a very common thing to have within your organization. And the reason why we like New Zealand with Fortinet is because Fortinet's operating system and its strength of power at the very top end of the field is exactly the same as it is at the bottom end of the field. It's just that the capabilities of the hardware for processing things is less at the lower end because it doesn't need to be as high. So it scales really well within New Zealand. The thing about firewalls and the whole cybersecurity field is that it has always been a bit of a scary place, and people think it's all smoke and mirrors with trying to get these things organized, etc., etc. So Fortinet has always been at the forefront of trying to make that interface between humans and the actual box itself to be a lot easier. And so this brings us on to AI. So AI, if you read science fiction or if you watch the news or watch any movies, it's never a good thing, is it? It's always a scary thing that's going to take us over and take our jobs and then overthrow us and turn us into some kind of batteries or something like that. But in reality, AI isn't that. AI is just a way of automating, if you like, a set of responses that makes our life easier, to put it in a very high level sort of explanation. And so we're not going to be banging on and on and on about how these different things work. We're actually just going to say AI does exist, and it is starting to filter into aspects of our day-to-day life now. We're all coming across chat bots and all that sort of thing, but this is a different take on it. So I'll start talking about Daryl now, being as he started all this. It's his fault, really. Daryl was foolish enough to give Ingram Micro a demonstration of how AI was actually being worked into the user interfaces of some of the Fortinet platforms to make things a lot easier and a lot quicker to actually get to the truth of what's going on. And he did that to a packed audience of about 300 people at Ingram Micro, and he showed a video of AI in action, which was probably pirated by Ingram Micro and then shown at the Acquire event. So really, he's brought this upon himself, and I'd like to just now throw him to the wolves. Daryl is possibly the most experienced SA type person within Fortinet for doing this type of demonstration, and he's got a demonstration for us now, which is different to the one that you saw last time. So, Daryl, do you want to jump in with both feet, mate?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, David. That's very lovely of you. And it depends, I guess. So I do have multiple AI demonstrations because we have it in multiple different products. Not entirely sure which one David's talking about being pirated. So if it's FortiAnalyzer, I can do FortiSOAR. If it was FortiSOAR, I can do FortiAnalyzer. So it's very much a kind of like dynamic environment today. A few notes quickly, obviously first. We have AI in multiple products. In about 40 different products, you'll find AI. Probably the two you notice most are that first one, that contextual Gen AI. So the generative AI, where we're using natural language to help, and that's where we'll grab one of those two demos, depending on what you've seen. And then obviously the other one is the kind of big data AI. And that's the stuff we've been using, and it's been protecting you for a long time. In terms of, we're running it in the FortiGates, we're running it in our cloud. And there's an absolutely massive amount of work that I don't think can be kind of underestimated as to what's gone into making that, successful, accurate, and fast. So in terms of those guys, they got to be given their kudos, because they're the guys who've been working for like the last, since like 2002. They started off, FortiGuard started off identifying those things themselves. They'd look at the file, they'd say, it behaves in a certain way, it's a malicious file. They mark it as malicious, they put it in the database. If we ever see that through any of your firewalls, we'll block it. So, keep you safe, can't accidentally download things, click on the phishing links, the wrong one, that kind of stuff. That's been happening not only for the own files that we get that those guys are working on, but it's been happening through things like our Cyber Threat Alliance. So we get things, we get files from Interpol or from all the American agencies or from MITRE. All of these different guys are giving us files. We're busy investigating the behavior of those files and how they work, the components within them, and we're saying whether they're good or bad. And it's really important now in our world to be super accurate with that side of it. So what happens is, if you're not super accurate, and this is quite bizarre, if you go and ask someone, those image generators to give you a picture of the Marina Sands or something, in this case with some kind of bizarre two-winged dragon, you'll often get this. You'll get these 4 towers on the Marina Sands. And that's obviously because there's a lot of there's a lot of images out there on what an extension to the Marina Sands would look like. So when you actually ask a lot of the AI platforms, you'll get 4 towers. But in reality, the Marina Sands is actually it's only got 3 towers. So it's a good example of how AI can be inaccurate and how important it is, especially for people like us who are using it in a sub-second environment. We have to be really accurate, because there's no time for a human to check that kind of stuff. The second problem we have with our data set is active poisoning. So people, that 20 years of viruses that we've collected from all over the world, it's literally petabytes of data. people like MITRE have seen people positioning like poison data. So they're trying to classify it as malicious, but it's actually good. So if we learn off this without checking it first, without getting a human to check all this first, and then we train off it, we're going to start stopping good files into people's environments. This isn't particularly real, but it does follow on to a good point, which was there's always people doing product placement, whether it's on LinkedIn or Reddit or wherever it happens to be. There's people saying how good their vacuum cleaners are, replying to all those comments, and that's really cool and that's nice. But again, it obviously when people then Google their product, it looks a little bit better. But what we've found now also is that who was it? Reddit sold, like, for $60 million. They sold basically their database so that OpenAI could train on it. So now, if you can go into OpenAI and say, oh, hey, I need a really good vacuum cleaner, you can actually get all those poison posts. So you get a biased result out of that as well. So in terms of how we work, it's obviously really important that we put in a huge amount of effort first, so that when we do come to, and this is our 20 years worth of effort basically that has gone before today, or like about 8 years ago when we started, to get really accurate data inside our database and to have really clean data as well. So that's we're not going to cover how it works, but we do have problems, obviously. If you are curious, it's based on a bunch of features. The features can be akin to a bunny. So, we say, it's got a short tail, or it's around 10 pounds, 4 kilos. It has long ears. These are all features of a bunny. And if we find all those features, the AI will assume it's a bunny, right? And so we work the same way, but with software and lines of code, pretty much. So we will take a virus apart. We will identify what features that has, and then based on that is how our AI is going to learn from that as well. So we obviously there's more problems, obviously, because there's always problems. Obviously, if it wasn't a bunny but a duck, there's lots of different ways a duck can look at. You can still get things wrong, like they could be duck eggs, or they could be crocodile eggs, or platypus eggs. So we do have a lot of challenges around that, but it still comes back to, at the end of the day, that supervised machine learning and the unsupervised learning. So, and we're really lucky at Fortinet because we've had that supervised machine learning stuff of it. We've got that labeled database, and we've been working on that labeled database, and we've got a really accurate, clean labeled database as well. So we've got a huge, 14-year head start before we started throwing on our AI on top of that. So we've got a good 14-year head start on a lot of other people who are kind of coming into this environment at the moment. And then obviously we put all that together. So, something that can, in a matter of like a second can take a raw sample coming in. It can put it through our input filter. It goes through like our, like we're saying before, it's going to check for particular features inside that piece of software. In our case, lines of code. In the previous case, does it have long furry ears? We've got good features, bad features. And in the end, we're going to really quickly class it either as malicious or clean. So it's 99% plus accurate at the moment. Obviously, we're always trying to make it better. But it's really amazing that we can now release things like, inline. We released a inline sandboxing the other day so that you can do identification of files within a sub-second that are totally unknown, so like 0 days, ones we've never seen before, and classify them into either malicious or clean, kind of things like that. And that's obviously really helped us because we can't keep up. No one can really keep up, as you can see. This is a little bit old, 2018, but you can see the number of like malware service, pieces of malware out there in the wild that people are making and changing has just exploded, right? So it's become a must-have, I think, in any decent security company to have. We can't scale people that far, right? So our big data AI is incredibly necessary with that. And so we're really lucky, obviously, to be able to implement this and make this the way we have, which is pretty cool. So probably from the non-Gen AI side of it, yeah, just realize how long it's taken, realize how long it's, how you have to have that database, how much human work had to go into that database beforehand to create the AI that we've created today to do these kind of things. So yeah, this big data is what we've lived on obviously for a long time, that big data AI. More interestingly, obviously, is the is obviously the generative AI with the natural language. So, and whether or not you guys can yell out if you've heard me say this before, then I'll swap. So at the moment, this demo is based on FortiAnalyzer, so it's just our normal logging platform that a lot of people will purchase straight after FortiGate, obviously, because they want to, they want to do user reports, or they want to, report on malicious or malicious behavior in their environment or whatever it happens to be, bandwidth, that kind of thing. So a lot of people have FortiAnalyzer. So this demo is actually based on FortiAnalyzer, and the scenario comes from we have a global SOC team, and the SOC team basically had a customer ring up, and the customer said, hey, look, one of my servers is running really slowly. I think it's something malicious. Can the FortiSOC team help me investigate this particular issue, kind of thing. So from our point of view, this is what FortiAnalyzer looks like. So in FortiAnalyzer, we've now got this FortiAI assistant that you can pop out on the side, which is really cool. Down the bottom here, I don't know if I've got a bottom thing because it's really small. You can see, no, I can't point it. I'll see. You can see there's like a little hold down button there. You guys. Yeah.
Hi there. Please retrieve the incident for the slow server.
So yeah, so we can basically talk to our FortiAnalyzer at the moment.
Hello, I found an incident related to the issue you mentioned. This incident, IN 00000011, involves the file backup server at IP address 172.16.88.23, categorized as malicious code with a high severity level. The reported issue is that the server is running slow. Would you like to check more details about this particular endpoint?
So yeah, so you can see we just hold down this button down the bottom, and then we can talk to FortiAnalyzer now. So this is leveraging a whole bunch of like large language models, obviously, as we're all kind of used to in the background. But it's quite cool. She says, she's identified it. She's pulled out of the FortiAnalyzer database. She's pulled that incident, that slow server incident out that we're talking about. And the FortiAI is now saying, hey, I realize you don't have enough data inside this, inside this ticket that's been logged. Would you like me to go and get more data for you? So it'll integrate with things like FortiClient, which is what this next.
You can provide additional
is. Yeah.
Yes, please run the FortiClient playbook.
performance overview. The file backup server 172.16.8823 is experiencing slowdowns, primarily due to the qCloud process consuming 98% of the CPU. Process details. In addition to qCloud, other processes like Apache, SSHD, etc. are also running on the server. Recommendations. Further checks on the IP 136.243.90.99 using FortiGuard and VirusTotal are recommended.
So yeah, it's quite amazing. In real time, we just keep talking to FortiAI, and it's gone off, and on that malicious server, because we have FortiClient installed, it's managed to pull a list of the services, and it's also managed to identify what's running, making that server run slow. And not only that, it's saying this particular process is communicating to an IP address out on the internet. And so we really want to know whether that IP address on the internet is is it a known bad IP address, right? So we can use some more of those integrations to find that out.
Sounds good. Please investigate this public IP address.
FortiGuard alert, threat, Monero.cryptocurrency miner, impact, network resource consumption, technologies involved, browser-based, network protocol, client server, peer-to-peer, cloud-based, mobile device. Observed behavior. Excessive bandwidth usage on default ports TCP/80 and TCP/443. Potential consequence: server slowness on 172.60.88.23 may be due to a Monero cryptocurrency miner. Recommendations: immediate remediation steps are strongly recommended to address and eliminate this potential security threat. Credit: FortiGuard application control signature information, fortiguard.com/appcontrol/440.
And I mean, yeah, some of this stuff is still amazes me, even having done this before. Like the ability that's gone out, it's obviously integrated with FortiGuard. We have to find out that IP address is malicious. We will be adding others like VirusTo and other third-party products to that, so that we can go and investigate or get second opinions on those IP addresses, but they might be not malicious. But it's basically identified the problem for us. It said, this is possibly running. The reason it's running slowly is there's a cryptocurrency miner running in our box. So normally the next thing we'd do, obviously, I mean, I know she suggested to eliminate it, but so normally the next thing you do is you check for internal spread, right, and make sure that that cryptocurrency miner hasn't, they haven't installed it on other machines in your environment as well.
Please search for any other IP addresses connecting to the same malicious IP.
Investigation result: sources attempting to connect to malicious IP 136.243.90.99. The FortiAnalyzer API query has identified multiple sources attempting to connect to the malicious IP. Notably, the server at IP address 172.62.88.23, currently experiencing slowness, is among them. Recommendations: investigate source IPs for potential threats. Check FortiAnalyzer threat hunting for more information on 136.243.90.99.
So yeah, so again, with very little prompting, normally I'd have to obviously run a bunch of queries and search my FortiAnalyzer database. So I've been able to use natural language now for like my incident management system, because it's going to keep a log of all of this for me. The threat intel system, which was in this case FortiGuard to check that malicious IP address, and obviously the endpoint system as well. And then obviously FortiAnalyzer itself, where it's gone and searched these logs. It searched my firewall logs basically that are stored on FortiAnalyzer to find that it has spread laterally a little bit, and it's infected 2 more PCs as well.
Please load the threat hunting page so I can take a look.
Yeah, you can.
Sure, I've redirected you to the FortiAnalyzer threat hunting page with a focus on the malicious destination IP 136.243.90.99.
So yeah,
If you have any questions or need further assistance, don't hesitate to ask.
so as you saw, we had to fast forward that part, mainly because it takes so long for something I could do in 2 clicks. So obviously not always 100% on the money, or maybe the best use case for the scenario, but you can definitely, I mean, it's quite good because the right filters and stuff have been put into the FortiAnalyzer threat hunting page. So maybe if I was new and I didn't know how to write these filters just to focus on those IP addresses, that's a really good way to do it.
Thank you. Please search for abnormal login activity related to these source IP addresses.
I've investigated the login events related to source IP 172.688.23 from the threat hunting list. Here's a detailed summary of the login attempts. If you'd like to explore these login attempts in more detail, I can take you to the log view for a closer examination. Would you like to proceed?
So yeah, we can. So the interesting thing about that, and probably not a lot of people are aware of with FortiAnalyzer, but in FortiAnalyzer 7.6, it not only ingests obviously FortiGate logs, as our central logging platform from like FortiWeb, FortiGates, Forti everything. It's also ingested the Windows login logs in this case, and so we're actually still searching FortiAnalyzer, but this time, because we've extended the capability to include Windows login logs, we can now ask her, questions like that as well.
Sure, please proceed.
To examine the Linux server login logs forwarded to FortiAnalyzer by FortiClient, apply the following filter in FortiAnalyzer log view. Considering the potential brute force attempt identified in the login logs, it is recommended to perform a vulnerability scan on the affected Linux server. This scan can help identify and address potential security weaknesses. Please initiate a vulnerability scan on the Linux server using your preferred scanning tool or platform. If you need assistance with specific scanning procedures or recommendations, feel free to ask.
So yeah, so that kind of like from an investigation side of it, that kind of sums it up reasonably nicely. Again, you can use 40 Analyzer for a lot more. I can like with regards to, and there's a whole action side of it as well. You can see here on the rest of it, where it can obviously, so things like this, it'll go on to do things like we can obviously things like 40 client can quarantine, 40 gate can quarantine, so we might want to quarantine those IP addresses, so we can ask it to quarantine IP addresses. Because we've made changes to our systems with things like this, we'd normally want to report on them because we need to tell people, so we can also say, you know, hey, 40 AI, you know, generate me a report for this incident. Hey, 40 AI, can you, you know, email this report to the network team because, you know, they may need to know that kind of stuff as well. But kind of the main, I guess the main point from that, from all of that is that we've got this kind of, the generative AI side of it is definitely becoming a nice central place where we can quickly ask, you know, natural language questions without having to go through the learning of how to write particular queries for particular products. It can span multiple products. So even though we're asking in 40 Analyzer, we're seeing it bring in stuff from, you know, like the fabric connectors, where we saw it go out to 40 guard to get that IP address information, or EMS is the one where it went out to 40 client to grab the statistics straight from the endpoint. So yeah, in general, it's going to be, from my point of view, it's obviously a very exciting kind of part. It is in boring things, it's an additional license you have to put on your 40 Analyzer to get these features. Otherwise, yeah, I'm waiting to see what happens. And I guess out of all of that, I didn't stop at any stage to ask if anyone has any questions. So
I
we should
do.
do that. Yep.
Yeah. So what is the list price for the additional license for 40 AI?
Yeah. So so it's limited at the moment. It's limited to 3 different people, and it scales based on like your 40 Analyzer license. That I know, and this is gonna, and so yeah, sorry, it's a piece of string question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So quite subjective.
Yeah, it depends if you're running obviously if you're running a massive one and you need to do, you know, tons of queries, then you'll find that the licensing can certainly stretch higher. I wouldn't say it's insignificant, but I mean, I'm not saying it's like 5% of the product that you've already paid, but it's also not 95% of the product cost again. So it is an add-on license, but it's definitely, yeah, it's still a chunk, right? Yeah.
I look forward to discounting that for our customers.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to say. Cool. So we'll be able to quote that extension right now. Is that correct?
Sorry, was that, can you? You can if
We
you
can
want. Yeah,
quote
it's
it.
available.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can quote it immediately. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so you do have to be running obviously 40 Analyzer 7.6. So, which is obviously the latest release, which means based on our kind of like release cycles and how we work, it means that your 40 gates would be 7.2. Because obviously 7.2, 7.4, and 7.6 are like kind of most recent releases of the 40 gate. And 40 Analyzer 7.6, you know, we only support so far backwards in the kind of release train on each one. So yeah, as long as you've got upgraded your 40 Manager to 7.2, you're running at least 7.2 on your gates, then obviously you can upgrade your 40 Analyzer to 7.6. And then you can, you know, obviously you can put that license on top of it as well.
Good to know, yeah. Anyone got a technical question?
Normally it's yeah, so normally it's are you giving all my data away?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There you go. Are we giving all of our data away?
Yeah. No, of course not. So so basically what happens is whenever you're asking any of those queries, because we're using like like the AI compute, like the NVIDIA farms at different like providers like Azure or Google, we do obfuscation in the middle of that as well. So if you're going to ask like that slow server we had and it came back giving away like the internal IP addresses of my environment, before we ask that question, before we use that resource and send that out of the environment, we'll change that to a dummy IP address. So all of a sudden, that dummy IP address is the one that goes out to the compute farm, and then when it comes back, we'll change that dummy IP address back into a real IP address for you. And so we'll do that for all. It's based on the GDPR stuff. So we've taken basically all that private data masking that the GDPR kind of set in place, and we're using that as the masking for your data before we send it off to the compute farms, and then we'll change it back again. So yeah, so it's aimed, it's very much giving people like a safe, secure way to leverage those the AI capability without people like starting to copy and paste things into ChatGPT and that kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Answer.
Sorry, I just realized I talked too much and we're 2 minutes over. Yeah.
I just thought that was really interesting that you asked yourself a question and then answered it really well. That was I must learn this technique of yours.
Yeah.
Daryl, that was really, really good. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time out to actually prepare that for us. And is there any questions out there from everybody? There's 16 of us. Has that fired any little synapses and you need to ask a question?
No immediate questions. However, if anyone has a question beyond this moment, our friends at Ingram, and including Daryl and his team, are quite ready to assist, help us move forward.
Yep.
So, and you also have to bear in mind that though there's been an awful lot of work in the background, this is the start of how that work will actually start to get integrated. So really the future of AI, as far as we're concerned, isn't a scary one. This is actually going to make our lives a lot easier, and is already making our lives a lot easier. I mean, as Daryl was saying, it's actually dealing with trillions of updates every day. And it's been doing that for quite some time now. All right.
Great. Shall we say, I suppose we'll wrap this up. I'll say thank you, Daryl, for sharing essential information with us. It's quite exciting, the AI. I follow it a lot. And thank you, David, for pulling Daryl in for our webinar for us and our customers. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I look very forward to supporting Fortinet in the future. Thank you for being our firewall provider.
Welcome.
Your pleasure.
Awesome. Great.
All right, guys.
Catch you later, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Daryl.
Thank you.